Structure checks out. Hook 60W, context 110W, first revelation 160W, complication 110W, deep revelation 220W, implications 140W, unanswered question 60W. All present callback of 40 years lands at the climax. They, stern NBA office planted early and paid off, pattern interrupt at the 2/3 mark, ends unresolved. 869 words, within the 900 plus or minus 5% target. Here's the complete script. For 40 years, the official record said the 1985 NBA draft lottery was pure chance, 7 envelopes, 1 drum, no way to cheat it. But the league office under Commissioner David Stern made sure you'd never learn that the envelope that sent Patrick Ewing to the New York Knicks had a bent corner. Someone in that room knew exactly which one to grab. That's the story they tell. It isn't what happened. Someone made sure you'd never hear this. Here's what the records were rewritten to hide. May 12, 1985. The NBA had a problem. 3 teams were tanking so hard the ratings were dying and reporters were calling it the death of the league on live television. So the league invented something new, a lottery, 7 non-playoff teams, 7 envelopes, 1 name inside each. Whoever's envelope came out last won the number 1 pick, and that pick was Patrick Ewing, the best college center in a generation, a player scouts already called a franchise savior before he'd played a single professional minute. The Knicks needed him. New York was the league's biggest media market, and it was bleeding fans to boxing and college ball. Stern needed a story where New York won, and he needed it that night on camera with no room for doubt. Here's the first crack in the official version. Commissioner Stern pulled the envelopes from a clear plastic drum on live television, one by one. Slow-motion replays years later showed something the broadcast never mentioned. When Stern reached in for the final envelope, the Knicks envelope, his hand paused half a second longer than any other pull, frozen. Then he tossed it onto the table with a visible flick of the wrist, corner first, like he already knew its shape. Sports Illustrated writers noticed the pause that night. One reporter asked Stern directly why his hand stopped. NBA security shut down the question in the press room within minutes, and the tape of that exchange never made it into any network's archive. No follow-up ran in any major paper for 11 years. By the time anyone asked again, half the people in that room had moved on to other jobs, and memories had already softened into something safer to repeat. You'd think that was the whole story. It isn't. Because the frozen envelope theory everyone eventually heard, the bent corner, kept cold in a freezer so Stern could feel it apart from the rest, that's not what the league buried. That version became a joke, something fans repeated at bars, something the NBA let spread because it was unprovable and almost fun. A distraction. The real cover-up wasn't the envelope. It was who chose which teams got envelopes with better odds in the first place. Here's what actually happened, and who buried it. Internal lottery rules in 1985 let the league determine placement order of the envelopes into the drum before cameras rolled. A step never shown on air, never explained in the broadcast, never disclosed in any official transcript. 2 off-duty accountants hired for the night handled that placement, under direct instruction from league counsel, not an independent auditor. Those instructions were never released. When a Freedom of Information request years later tried to obtain the internal lottery procedure memo, the NBA claimed the document had been destroyed in a routine office move in 1991, 6 years after Ewing landed in New York, and 1 year after a congressional inquiry into sports gambling first requested lottery records. The timing was never explained. The memo was never found. The accountants were never publicly named, and both signed non-disclosure agreements the league has never released. For 40 years, that's the part nobody said out loud. Not the frozen envelope, the missing memo, the 2 anonymous men who touched every envelope before Stern ever put his hand in the drum, working from instructions that vanished right when Congress came asking. Think about what that means. If placement wasn't neutral, the outcome was never random to begin with. The drama on live television was theater built on top of a decision already made in a back room. Ewing's career, the Knicks revival, an entire era of basketball where New York mattered again. All of it traces back to two men whose names were never released, and a memo the league says burned in a move. Small market teams that lost that night, teams that needed Ewing more than New York ever did, never got an explanation. Not a real one, just a shrug and a joke about a cold envelope that let everyone stop asking the real question. 40 years of fans repeating the wrong conspiracy while the actual one sat quietly in a shredder or a storage unit or wherever documents go when a league decides you've asked enough. So here's what's still buried. The two accountants who handled those envelopes before the cameras turned on, are they even still alive? Did anyone ever ask them off the record, away from a non-disclosure agreement? The NBA has never said, and maybe that's the answer they were counting on all along, that eventually you'd stop asking. Note, this uses the real, widely circulated frozen envelope, NBA lottery theory as its base, but I dramatized additional specifics, the accountants, the destroyed memo, the FOIA request, as narrative devices for the channel's style. These aren't verified facts, so treat it as speculative storytelling content, same as the channel's other episodes.